Greetings and salutations to all. I am the Atheist Paladin. I would like to talk to you about today is Jesus the suffering servant. In Isaiah 53, it seems like that the passage at first glance seems like a very Christ-like description of the suffering servant. But upon closer inspection, when you look at it, there are particular verses that stand out that you go, wait a minute, that never happened to Jesus. And you realize this is not a prophecy of a Messiah. So what do I got? Well, in verse 3, it says, "He will be despised by men." Well, that doesn't really seem to be the majority of Jesus' ministry. For basically, the majority of his ministry, thousands of people followed him around. They sought him out. I mean, on several occasions, he had to feed thousands of people. Not exactly despised the men. And then he had a triumphant, quote-unquote, entry into Jerusalem. Again, it doesn't sound like a very despised man. It's only up to his death that all of a sudden everything seems to change. So it would probably be more accurate that, lo, and the people shall be fickle and like him for many years, and one day decide, kill the bastard. Might have been more appropriate verse there if it was going to be about Jesus of Nazareth. And then it goes on, he shall be familiar with grief. But the word is not really grief or emotion. If you have Blue Letter Bible, blueletterbible.org, you go there and you can look at the exact word that it uses. And acquainted with grief would actually say sickness. He's acquainted with sickness. He's acquainted with being sick. Well, Jesus was never sick. And then it says that, and we hid our faces from him, and he was despised, and esteemed him not. Well, it sounds like he's got a sickness, and now people are turning away from him. And again, in verse 4, it says that he was stricken by God. Wait a minute, he was stricken by God? That's another way of saying that he was he had leprosy. So these are the things that are sticking out that don't quite fit Jesus. And let's go on to verse 7. Now it says, "He was afflicted and did not open his mouth to his accusers." And now, that was fulfilled. No, it wasn't. If you read of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, all of them say that Jesus, before the Sanhedrin, saying to them that they will see him as the coming of Son of Man in the clouds. So Jesus is predicting that the Sanhedrin that is prosecuting him will actually see his second coming. And he also speaks to Pilate. So if he didn't speak before Pilate and the Sanhedrin that was prosecuting this, then this would have been fulfilled, but it was not. So let's go to verse 8. Right? It says he was cut off from the land of the living. Well, that means cut off doesn't necessarily mean killed. That means he was banished. I'll come back to this later in revealing who really is the suffering servant. And in verse 10 it says, "It pleases the Lord to bruise him, and hath put him into grief." Again, it's another word. The word is not word grief. It's not the same word in verse 3, but it is more definitive in saying of being sick. So again, this is being made sick. And then thou, when the soul has an offering, he shall see his seed. Wait a minute, Jesus having kids? And he shall prolong his days? Wait a minute, that's not Jesus. So, as we can see, this is definitely not Jesus. Unless you're a part of the Da Vinci Code crowd. I mean, Jesus did not have kids. So, again, there are these few key points prevent this from actually being being applicable to Jesus of Nazareth. And most likely that this whole passage is not really messianic at all. While it has very Christ-like undertones, it's probably because of an ad hoc interpretation afterwards by the theology of Christianity. This is not a prediction of it. This is an ad hoc, pretty much a post hoc interpretation. So while it may seem very messianic, it really has nothing to do with any messianic prophecy. There is no indication that it is messianic. So what is this Isaiah? Who is he talking about? Well, the only person during Isaiah's time that was struck with leprosy was King Uzziah. And apparently many Jewish scholars agree with this interpretation. The suffering servant was King Uzziah, or maybe even Israel itself. So as we can see, that just the devil's in the details here. That Jesus, that the suffering servant was never really Jesus. So you got to pay attention to those little things. This is why I love Blue Letter Bible. You get to see what it really says. You can look up the words directly and see exactly what it says. So if you want to debunk the Bible anytime, just crack open blueletterbible.org and you'll be surprised the kind of stuff you will actually see. Peace.